Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Word Out West. This is our second episode of our mini-series on opioid and heroin overdose epidemic that is happening in Chicago right now. I am Maggie Carter. I am from Healthcare Alternative Systems. I am a harm reduction coordinator there. And this is my lovely partner.
Thank you. I'm John Werning. I am also at I'm also a harm reduction coordinator at Healthcare Alternative Systems.
Yes. So today we're going to talk to you, everyone here, about Naloxone. We're going to get really into that, and we're going to teach you guys how to administer it. So feel free to call at any point during the show and ask questions about whatever may pertain to that.
Absolutely. And that number is 312-738-1060.
Yes. Feel free to call at any point. So John, what is Naloxone?
That's a great question. So Naloxone is, to make it really concise, is an antidote for opioid overdose. Mm-hmm. So that has one job, which is to reverse an opioid overdose if someone was experiencing an opioid overdose.
Yeah. Where can I get Naloxone?
There's a bunch of different ways that you can access Naloxone here in the city of Chicago. So one of the things that the task force does that we do is that we distribute Naloxone and in a couple of different forms, but you can get it at an agency that is certified and trained or in training individuals of how to administer Naloxone. So, for instance, Chicago Recovery Alliance is one of these agencies. They work with the task force. HAAS, our agency, we access Naloxone through them too, and we distribute this. And then depending on the type that you want, because there's a couple of different versions which we'll get into, I think, in a little bit later, you can get it at a pharmacy too.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I know there are three different kinds. Do you want to explain this first kind that we have here?
Sure. So this is called Ezio. So this is an Ezio AutoInjector. It's very similar to like an EpiPen, right? So it talks to you. It counts down how much time you need before the shot is being administered, and then it gives you one shot. It can be a little pricey.
Yeah, where can I get this, and how much is it?
I think you have to go through a pharmacy to get this one, okay. And it could be, depending on what insurance you have, it could be a lot, but it is quite expensive, to the tune of a couple grand. So
a couple grand.
Yep,
that's
an expensive option. Yeah, I think the numbers can vary, but I think this one in particular might be about four grand a box.
Wow, that is a lot, and I can't imagine a lot of people can afford that. So.
Yeah. So we do need other options, but this is typically what it looks like, and then you use this very similar to an EpiPen.
How many doses are in that box?
Two doses per box.
And what does that mean?
So you could if somebody is experiencing an OD, you could give them 2 shots of Naloxone with this box.
Okay, and that's $4,000. And then do you want to give us a little talk about this? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And then this is, so one of the main differences, and we have a different one too, is that this is also, for the Ezio, is an intramuscular shot. So that's going to be given into like the arm or the side of the thigh. And we have one other intramuscular too, but in between that we have what's called the Narcan nasal spray. So Narcan is a very popular brand name for Naloxone. Naloxone being the generic name for Narcan. And this is one dose, and then this would go into somebody's nose.
Okay. And where can I get this, and how much is this?
That's a great question. So this one in particular, we do have access to this through a pharmacy in the city of Chicago, and I actually believe that might be in the entirety of Illinois with the Illinois Standing Order. So anybody can go into a pharmacy, whatever pharmacy you choose, and you should be able to go in and say, please give me some Naloxone and or Narcan nasal spray, and you can get this.
So what I'm hearing is if I were to go into a pharmacy, I would be getting the Narcan nasal spray, but not the Ezio. I could get the Ezio, but it's a lot of money. And this would be another option. Yeah,
so again, like the amount of money for this is, it can flux depending on what insurance you have. So a lot of people, it would only cost a copay. Which can range, but this could be somewhere around $170 a box for 2 shots of Naloxone.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah. So you get 2 shots, and it does the same thing as the Ezio as well.
Okay. And last but not least, what is this last option that we have?
Yeah, so this is a generic form of naloxone. This is just a vial, and this is 1 dose. And this is probably the most common way that we pass out naloxone in the city of Chicago. We pass this out through our connections with Chicago Recovery Alliance, as do many other agencies throughout the city and throughout the collar counties and the rest of Illinois and elsewhere too. But this is 1 shot. So what you would do with this is that you would have to inject it with an intramuscular syringe.
Okay.
And then this would, very similarly to the Ezio, would just go into the arm or the side of the thigh.
Okay. And then why would someone want to use this as opposed to the intramuscular or the Ezio or the nasal spray?
Well, so all 3 of these are effective at responding to and to an overdose.
Okay.
This one is the cheapest option for sure, by far. I don't have exact numbers, I guess, for how expensive or inexpensive this one is, but we're talking a fraction of the price, in particularly compared to the Ezio 2. These might be a good option for some people, but in the terms of accessibility, we're able to distribute this version just on a wide scale.
So we can buy more of the cheaper version of naloxone and give more out and saturate Chicago more with this,
Absolutely,
as opposed
yeah.
to the Ezio or the Narcan.
Right. So not knocking these 2, they are effective and they have their purpose for sure. But as the terms of getting this into the hands of lay people,
Yes.
like you and me, we're not medical professionals. This is going to be probably the best option. And I know people are scared. People are scared about intramuscular syringes in particular. But we provide trainings to help people kind of get through that. And then of course, it is as effective as the other options too.
Yes, that is really, really good to know. Do you want to show us how to inject the vial in the syringe?
Cool. And the reason why we're going to show this is just because, especially in Chicago, again, this is going to be the form that you are going to have the most access to. Like, any individual can go into a pharmacy and get this one for sure, but again, we pass this out for free. So
And naloxone should be free. People who use drugs should be able to get naloxone whenever for however much. So it should be free, and that's why we are giving it away for free and training people for free.
1 second, everybody.
Okay. You can also get it. You can get Narcan at any pharmacy, and Medicaid does cover it. There's no copay for Medicaid
Yeah.
with the Narcan spray. But we also give out the syringe for free.
Right, and usually our kits, which I'm not sure that we brought any with today, they come in these brown bags that we give out. There's 3 shots in each one, 3 intramuscular syringes, just in case somebody might need more than 1 shot.
And why would someone need more than 1 shot?
It can depend. 1 shot of naloxone is typically pretty good for most overdose crisis situation, but it is possible that someone might need multiple doses, and that could be based on body size, it could be based on tolerance. There's a bunch of different factors. So we give out a couple of shots of naloxone just to cover bases.
Okay, that sounds great.
Cool.
Okay, so let's say someone is having an overdose. What do we do in this instant?
Great. So I would grab my intramuscular syringe, and these are called LOC syringes. So we want to make the tip of it comes off a little bit. So what that means is that it can be a little loose when we have it. So we just want to give it a little twist, and then you take off your syringe, you take the vial, and you pop off that orange tab. You turn it over. You draw just a little bit of air. We want to put a little bit of air in that vial just because it makes it easier to draw back. It's creating more pressure. We inject that air, and then we draw a shot.
And what happens if I don't get it all on the first try? Can I, what if there's air in it? And am I supposed to be worried about that?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about air. This is an intramuscular shot, so air is not a big deal. We know that we see, like, on TV, people are really concerned about it. And we don't have to worry about that in this one. It's nice to get the air out of the syringe if you have time, but really time is against you in this moment. If you're, if somebody's ODing, it is a crisis, so we want to get it. So you don't have to worry too much about that.
Okay.
Yeah, and cool. So once you draw all the contents of the vial, here's our handy-dandy little injector tool. Imagine that this is the side of somebody's arm or the side of their leg. Just one quick shot in and inject.
Wow.
And pull out.
Very easy.
Yeah, very, very simple. That's how you would inject a shot of naloxone. Of course, this is only one step when responding to an OD. So right after this, of course, it's really important that we do call paramedics.
Yes.
And then the last thing I would say is also to remember to do rescue breaths.
Yeah, that sounds great. And that sounds very easy to use.
Yeah, yeah, it is. One of the biggest things or most common things that we get when we do trainings is that people are afraid to do the syringes or use the syringes. But we get it can be scary, but it's to save a life. So we try to push people to give it a shot.
Yeah, of course. Let's get into kind of recognizing an overdose, because I know not everyone has seen one or knows what to expect and are a little afraid of injecting someone with this drug if they have no idea if someone's having an overdose. So what can we check for when we're looking for an overdose?
Great question. So obviously you want to see if somebody is breathing, to check to see if they're breathing in normal rates.
Mm-hmm.
There might be, if you think, hey, that person is, not breathing right, maybe check responsiveness. See if that person can talk to you. So it'd be like, hey, Maggie, hey, it's John. Are you, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. If they don't have any response, I would say, okay, I'm going to move into probably like a sternal rub, right?
Yes.
Or to check to see if they can be stimulated in a way with either a sternal rub or under the nose, and that hurts a little. And what that would do is that if they are awake, they should respond at that point. But if they don't, you can check, other vital signs. You can see if they, not vital signs. You can see if they have blue lips blue fingertips.
Okay.
And if there's a combination of these things, I would say that you can move forward and as though it's an overdose.
Okay. And John, let's say I was walking down the street and I came across someone that was falling out. He looked a little clammy, looked a little pale. I couldn't really tell if he was having an overdose.
Yeah.
What should I have done?
You can, call 911 for sure, but if you're like, man, this really looks like an OD,
Mm-hmm.
Proceed with it being an overdose. Naloxone is completely safe.
Okay.
So if somebody in that moment isn't experiencing an OD, naloxone's not going to hurt them. But if they are experiencing an OD, it's going to save their life.
Okay, that sounds really, really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to ask some questions that we get a lot from trainings that we do.
Yeah.
These are not stupid questions. These are questions that everyone asks. We get them a lot. So we're just going to go over them just to kind of clear any
Misinformation.
Yeah. Yes.
And of course, if anybody has questions of their own, they can always call in
at 312-738-1060.
Perfect.
Okay. So a question we get a lot is, will naloxone keep drug users from seeking treatment?
No. Quite the opposite. And most importantly, that a naloxone or an overdose death is absolutely going to keep a person who uses drugs away from treatment for sure. But if a person is revived, we know this through data. Some people use that opportunity to pursue treatment for sure. Not everyone does. People, come to their treatment journey at different times. But at the end of the day, people got to be alive in order to seek treatment. So if that's their goal, yeah, we gotta make sure that they have naloxone. Not having naloxone, that kills
Yes.
people.
So you think that naloxone does not encourage drug use. It doesn't keep people kind of using and just enables them to keep using.
Yeah, I think it enables people to live their lives. We put a lot of stigma on drug users for sure, and we should be doing everything that we can to break down those barriers. And naloxone really is. We were reading an article recently that I think that this proves that naloxone is absolutely an intervention based on love. Like it is an act of love giving somebody naloxone or reviving that person, and I really do believe that. And if somebody it's not my job to tell a person that they shouldn't or shouldn't be using drugs in that moment, but we need to make sure that folks can stay alive. If they want to seek treatment, they can.
Exactly. It's a really great answer. Is naloxone addictive?
No, it's not. No, naloxone isn't addictive. There's no other effect of naloxone besides removing opioids from brain receptors. That's it.
Okay, that is very good.
Yeah, and we didn't. I think I might have said this before. Naloxone has one job. The only job that it has is to go into the system and bump opioids off brain receptors. That's it. So that normal breathing function and body functions can be restored in that moment if they're experiencing an OD.
Let's say that I took an opioid, but I had other drugs in my body. Would the naloxone still work?
Yeah, like if you have any opioids in your system, even with other drugs, it's still going to work to take the opioids off of your brain receptors. It's not going to do anything for any of the other drugs. So if you took benzos or you took cocaine or you drank, that's still absolutely going to be in your body or affecting you. But at least removing one thing out of that cocktail is going to be very beneficial.
Okay, so you're saying. When using a lot of substances, naloxone could still benefit someone from having an overdose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Simply because it just bumps the opioids off the brain.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And people need to breathe to stay alive, so.
And do you want to talk to us about what happens after someone wakes up from naloxone? We get this a lot too.
Yeah.
People are always confused as to how people feel or what happens after.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody has no opioids in their system, it's not going to have any effect. So I
could do it right now to myself.
Right. So if there's no opioids in your system, yeah, absolutely. And this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit ago, about if somebody, if you find someone falling out in the street and you think, maybe this is an OD, hit them anyways because it's not going to cause any adverse effects.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a miracle drug. It really does. Okay, so we kind of know how to recognize an OD. A lot of people ask if naloxone is safe for women or pregnant women and children.
Yep, completely safe.
It is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Safe for everyone. So safe for pregnant women, safe for children. It's great.
And do you think that it's okay for, let's say, an 18-year-old to know how to administer naloxone?
I think that everybody should know how to administer naloxone. I mean, it really is an intergenerational overdose. Opioid overdose in particular is an intergenerational issue. Yes. It affects everyone, and so we need people from all ages to get trained in this and advocate for access to this, because we know access isn't great, but we at least can train as many people as possible with the resources we do have. So yeah, please. Yeah. If you're interested, if you're a young person and you're interested in getting trained, we'll train you, or anybody from any age, we'll train you too.
Yes, of course. That is our job. Yeah, we will do that. We get this question a lot. How can we access naloxone, or how can that the access be increased?
Yeah.
Because people are kind of frustrated. Obviously, when we say that the Ezio is $4,000 and the Narcan is $170 or $70 with insurance, it gets confusing.
Yeah.
And then we have this other option. But what do you think would raise or kind of increase access to naloxone? Yeah,
we need very intentional, I think, federal policy or just municipalities to take up that responsibility and put money where your mouth is, right? We know that this is a crisis. We know that people are dying from OD, but we need funds. We need the purchasing power to buy the naloxone to get it into the hands of people who need it most. It's great that first responders, in particular, have naloxone, and we've seen that they've been using it much more when responding to an overdose. But it's something like 90% of all reversals are happening from lay people, from your average person who uses drugs, who doesn't use drugs. 90%, and most likely it's a form like this. So more money, more funds, intentional policy, allowing, opening up the access to these things. We know that there are some restrictions on different programs or grants where people can't buy this stuff.
Yes.
And we need that to change for sure.
And the people who would use naloxone the most are the people who use drugs. So the naloxone should be in the hands of those people. And sometimes these people are in communities that lack resources, that lack funds, that lack education even about opioids or naloxone or even training. So it is really important that we get people, everyday people who use drugs at the front line using naloxone, passing it out, training their friends and family, so that Chicago can be saturated with everyone who knows how to use it, administer it, and can give it out.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
That sounds great. Where can I train to administer naloxone? Yeah,
there's a lot of really great resources in the city of Chicago. Luckily, we have groups like the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force. They have partnered with a number of different agencies that provide these trainings. So contact the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force or Prevention Partnership, or us. We can direct you to the trainings that are available. I wish I would have brought one of the training schedules. But no, we have a lot of options for people. Very formal trainings in, if you would prefer to be in a classroom, but we also have outreach workers who'll come to you in your community or wherever you are and train you on the street if need be.
Okay, that sounds great. Couple other questions, just because these get brought up so often.
Sure.
But we kind of talked about this before. Do you need to be a medical professional to recognize an opioid overdose and administer naloxone? Because I feel like a lot of people get nervous and they're like,
Absolutely.
Am I legitimate enough to use this? I don't want to hurt someone else or potentially hurt them in any way when I wasn't supposed to.
So you can be trained. You can be trained and you can be a certified trainer. The laws that protect folks from administering naloxone to folks, the Good Samaritan laws protect you. And then you, once you're trained through one of our programs or by one of the fabulous agencies that I just mentioned, you're a certified trainer. So you don't need any other credentialing besides that.
That sounds great. That sounds great. And then are there any risks associated with naloxone that people should know about?
The only one that I think that should be talked about or given enough air, and I think we were about to talk about this a little earlier, is that when somebody goes through somebody is going through an overdose and there's naloxone being administered, if there are opioids in their system, they will go through or experience withdrawal.
Okay.
So it depends, again, on how much they took or how much naloxone had been administered at that time. But yeah, they can experience withdrawal. It's very common. And, from that, a person could be agitated, they could be confused, they could be embarrassed. There's a number of things. So, but besides that, if no opioids in your system, no other side effects.
Okay. That sounds great. Let's see. So we know everyone, if you need to be trained, contact Westside Opioid Task Force, contact Haas. You can also contact Prevention Partnerships. There's many, many more organizations as well that do the trainings, but they are all free. I would suggest everyone go out, no matter how old you are, no matter if you even relate to this issue at all. It's important for you to be trained and to have naloxone. We're going to show you a little risk reduction tips
So yeah, so if a person, these are just common ways that folks might protect themselves from an OD. Some of these are better than others, but they all could help a person stay alive.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. This is a great second episode. Feel free to call at any point next week as well. We will be here next week, and I'm Maggie.
And I'm John.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.